Tonight, St. Lucia's tourism minister warns of the potential negative impact of crime on the economy as masked gunmen attack a group of more than 30 tourists. St. Lucia police expressed concern about citizens taking the law into their own hands after separate mob attacks on alleged criminals. The opposition Labour Party demands that the process of revisiting the new Labour Code be open to public scrutiny, and principals want the Ministry of Education to bring closure to the issue of new regulations on the use of mobile telephones in school.
This evening's news is brought to you by Line.
A very good evening to you and Happy New Year. Welcome to the Monday edition of the DBS News World. My name is Timothy Polio. We commenced tonight's broadcast with news that St. Lucia's tourism minister has expressed concern about the impact of crime on the national economy at a time when the global economic crisis has already resulted in more than 200 job losses in the tourism industry. The concerns are coming in the wake of another attack on visitors, this time by masked gunmen at the River Rock waterfall in Ancillary. The group of 34 visitors, most of them French, were on a one-day excursion to the island and had disembarked from a bus when three masked men attacked. One of the men was armed with a shotgun, the other with a cutlass. The men robbed all the visitors of their valuables and escaped. No one was injured. Ancillary police are continuing investigations into the incident, which occurred on December the 21st. The group of visitors included 19 nationals from Martinique, 10 from Belgium, and 2 American citizens. The Minister of Tourism, while not discussing that incident in an interview with the DBS News World, made it clear that crime would have a big negative impact on the economy if current trends do not change. DBS's Lisa Joseph begins our news coverage.
2009 has opened with the knowing unease that it will be a challenging year for the economy as the leaders of the developed world scramble to stabilize their local economies and, by extension, the global climate. Local officials are at the drawing board, strategizing to buffer St. Lucia's vulnerable economy. Dependent on the tourism industry, the local economic landscape has already been hard hit, with hundreds of hotel workers laid off late last year. Now, St. Lucia's tourism minister says the true test for the local sector lies in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Of prime concern is the island's unabated crime rate and its effects on the lifeblood sector. The tourism minister believes frankly that if St. Lucia develops a reputation for crime, selling it as a destination will become more difficult. The year ended with statistics showing a staggering 39 homicides committed. Senator Alan Chasney believes the society as a whole is not tough enough on crime. It is for this reason, he says, his ministry has adopted a tell-all policy on crimes committed within the tourism industry.
Some other countries we know in this region suppress their crime. And I think that in the short run you win because you think that maybe tourists outside aren't going to hear what the situation is. But in the medium to long term you lose. Because what happens, you start creating a society where we start protecting our criminals. I think we've got to stop that. You've got to acknowledge that you have a problem, and in that acknowledgement, then you can start finding solutions.
In fact, last year, the tourism minister was bitterly criticized for announcing that advisory pamphlets would be distributed to visitors, particularly cruise passengers, informing them about certain hot spots to be avoided. The decision was taken after a series of attacks on visitors, including that of a Canadian model at 11 o'clock in the morning at a viewing point just outside the Castries Harbour. Senator Chasney says the situation is worrisome.
We're now hearing about buses being held up at gunpoint. We're hearing about masked men going into hotel lobbies. We're seeing people, becoming more and more daring. That definitely is an indication that we need to step up our programs.
The tourism minister has welcomed additional resources to beef up the police force, but says there must be a change in attitude towards crime in the society as a whole. Minister Chasney has called on every citizen to become a custodian of the economy by contributing in every way to a safer country. For the DBS News World, Lisa Joseph reporting.
The Royal St.Lucia Police Force expresses concern over the attitude of some members of the public as it relates to complaints involving police. The police say they are particularly concerned about citizens taking the law into their own hands after a man who allegedly attempted to assault a woman on the weekend was beaten by a mob and had to be hospitalized. Last month, a police officer who shot a Sufra resident was also beaten by angry citizens and his vehicle damaged by a mob. DBS's Cecil Actil reports.
Authorities are calling on members of the public to work with them to ensure that matters will be investigated and appropriate action taken in every instance. According to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, there are signs of hope, but the force is concerned that some aggrieved individuals are acting out of anger.
I know whenever there's a situation, there's emotions involved and people are generally angry, but I suppose it is not advisable for people to act out of anger. I think there is still law enforcement and there is still the rule of law. So we are still encouraging members of the public to follow the rule of law.
A few days ago, there were scenes of community outrage in Sofre after an unarmed civilian was shot by a police officer. Instances where officers have acted in a manner resulting in undermining public trust is of nothing unusual to the police force, but authorities want to address the situation with the advent of the new procedures announced by the government.
We need to deal with the individual cases. I don't know that this will result in a lack of trust in the entire police force if a few rogue police officers do not do what they are supposed to do and undermine public trust. I think what we need to do is to work with the public in terms of dealing with rogue police officers.
2 senior officers will be in charge of heading the unit responsible for addressing the matters of indisciplined officers. Reporting for the DBS News World, I am Cecil Actil.
Still in the first segment of the broadcast, the Community Action Program for Safety CAPS is calling for public support in its community outreach programs as part of efforts to curb crime in St. Lucia. More from DBS's Don Nicholas.
The Community Action Program for Safety, CAPS, has recounted a number of hurdles in its way when it comes to fighting crime on the island. One of the hurdles involves getting persons to attend town hall meetings in order to get their input into crime-fighting strategies.
With reference to the challenges, we are still battling with the area of getting people to attend town hall meetings, getting people to work together with us so that we can implement some of the programs that we've got.
However, on a positive note, CAPS was full of praise for the new Village Development Committee. The committee took the initiative to organize fundraising activities to financially assist nearby schools.
And we've seen, slowly but surely, we've seen progress. We're also happy to report that the new Village Development Committee took on their own to source footballs and little goals, which they donated to schools in the area. Now, this is positive. This is good. And we're happy to see that members of the community who at one time were regarded as, if you want to put it, the troublemakers, have now turned that leaf and want to make a contribution towards the overall safety and development of their community.
CAPS also applauded the initiatives to bring religious groups together, one of them going by the